Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this town hall. It's great to see so many of you here today on a beautiful, maybe one of our last summery days, weather days of the season. So I would like to introduce the president, who's going to give some remarks and then take questions afterwards. So if you have any questions, feel free afterwards, just let us know. And then we've asked anyone zooming in to send in the chat box. So I'm going to turn it over to President Shenson.
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I was just remarking that it's super warm out for this time of year and I know that because tomorrow's homecoming and I have like homecoming outfits that I wear and they all involve like a vest or a fleece jacket or something. So I have to rethink the whole wardrobe for tomorrow because it's just not going to be able to work. But it's great seeing everybody here. I can tell you that I've actually talked to a whole bunch of students walking over, and one of the things that whenever I'm talking to students that's really striking me, and I've said this to so many people, our students and students in general will never, ever take for granted again to be in a classroom with their classmates or with their faculty. I mean, they are just, they're so happy. I mean, they're joyous about being back on campus and being with each other and being with all of you. We've also even seen students that weren't engaged are now joining clubs like crazy. I mean, they're just joining all the clubs. SGA usually has, they've got to struggle to fill some of their judicial positions. Wham, they've got like 15 applications for every spot. So the students are just really coming off the fact of knowing that they couldn't experience what a college campus is all about, and what college life is all about, what being in a classroom with university faculty is all about. So I just wanted to make sure that you probably all feel that, everybody feels it. And the campus is just so alive. It's been, I want to also always make sure to thank all of you for the last 18 months, to have what we've experienced together as a community occur is just remarkable, and the support that everybody has given our students and given each other, because it's about supporting each other as well, has just been tremendous. So, I can't say enough how grateful I am to all of you for everything that you've done to support our students and to support each other during these, most remarkable times. I was actually at the Board of Regents retreat yesterday all day, and we had various presentations about COVID. And I know that all of you are looking at your colleagues, and I'm looking at my colleagues throughout the United States, and how much University System of Maryland, how much Maryland differs from so many other places, as you can tell. And we were so ahead of the curve in terms of acquiring vaccines, as well as the efforts that we've made in terms of campus itself, so we could create the safest place in terms of the public health standards for everybody to return to work, learn, and live for the students themselves. So it's really important. I can share with you that some of you might know the fact that Chancellor Perman is a physician, but he's just not a physician. He is a pediatrician. So he has dealt with vaccine hesitancy and a lot of issues with regard to vaccines through his entire professional career. So he was all in very early about the fact that the only way we were going to control this pandemic was to be able to use the gift of the vaccine that our scientists developed, and was very much ahead of the curve. We were the first university system in the United States to mandate vaccines. So we were very much ahead of the curve to be able to do it. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for supporting each other with that as well. It was an important step for us to be able to take, to be able to come back to campus and to do it as safely as we possibly could. It's a very exciting time on campus for a variety of reasons, not just the fact that we're all back. We also have the fact that we had successful Middle States accreditation, and I know many people probably sitting in this room were involved in terms of the Middle States reaffirmation. The reaffirmation itself is for 8 years. Really challenging 2.5-year process to be able to do that, very rigorous process, but also having COVID on top of it was just remarkable to be able to deal with. I have a great deal of respect for all of the folks, the provost, the deans, and everybody who was on the steering committees, as well as Maggie Tab and you know, everybody that was involved. But I also want to be able to say, and Wesley, sorry, I also want to say that the team did a remarkable job. I've been on accreditation teams before, and for them to never meet each other and never be on a campus and have to organize a team visit over 3 days remotely, they just did a remarkable job as well. So we had a very positive result. It's going to basically the commission to be able to affirm. And we have some good stuff to be able to build on. It also provides the fact that it dovetails with our strategic plan. The strategic plan, you know, we started rolling it out this year. Right now, the deans are aligning the strategic plan of the colleges with the university strategic plan. Boom, what a big idea, right? To have those things aligned, as well as the various divisions on campus. So we're looking forward to being able to have that happen. And lastly, we have November 4th, I will be presenting to the regents the master plan of the campus. So it's the very first time the master plan, the reaffirmation self-study of the middle states and the strategic plan have all aligned at the same time. They generally have staggered times and periods where they become reality. So for us to have these all come at the same time just really, really provides us with a tremendous inflection point to be able to move off of. You've probably seen all the buildings on campus that we've been able to dedicate and open. The science complex was open and dedicated a couple of weeks ago. We recently did the groundbreaking for the big hole that got so big. I mean, when they started digging it and kept going and going and going. So that's where the College of Health Professions is going to go. And of course, the Union Phase 1 is just about to be fully done. You've probably seen the fact that the dining area isn't open yet. We're looking to be able to open that later in the semester. I have a friend of mine who has middle school children, and she says that when one of her daughters, when she didn't do well in math, said it was because of a supply chain issue. And right now, everybody's blaming everything on supply chain issues. But I can tell you the fact that that's really due to supply chain issues you're well aware of. So as soon as we get that started, we'll be able to open that. And then phase 2 will be completed in the spring, which is the renovation of the quote old part of the Union. So we're looking forward to getting that up and running, and we'll dedicate that in the spring as well. And we're very excited to be where we are. But the investment was very important. We've also made the investments in terms of Uptown Towson, where we bought 401 Washington and are renovating that. That was really to move people who didn't have to be on campus to another space so we could make use of the core of campus. Also, we had folks at OTS who were in the basement of the library, not a real good place to be able to have people working day in and day out. So we moved advancement and SPAR up there because that's a suitable place for them to be. They don't have to be on the core because we're looking to expand academic affairs, and we need the space to be able to do that as well. So we're excited. And then if you haven't been in the Armory, please do so. It's a fabulous space, 26,000 square feet. And it's really our connection to economic workforce development and business development with the county and with the state. And there's just tremendous work that's being going on there. I was purposeful in not having it be in the business school and report to the business school, because I can tell you, most people who are entrepreneurs and creators of businesses actually graduate from colleges like this one, okay? They don't graduate from business schools. So as a former business school dean, I felt very strongly that we would have it housed basically in the provost office itself so that all the colleges could inform the activities of that. And that'd be education. Look at fine arts and communications, CLA, Fisher. I mean, there's just so much opportunity for our students to engage in that as well. So I'll stop, and of course it's homecoming, so I hope everybody will enjoy that. But I'll stop talking, and please, any questions you might have or anything, I'll ask as best I can.
All right, who wants to be the first? I know that's always the hard one to be the first.
I'll start calling on people.
Do we have any coming in from?
No.
No, Chad. There was one that came in. Okay, there's a question.
Yes.
So, as you know, hello. As you know, I run an event that runs with Baltimore County high schoolers, and actually high schoolers in a couple of counties on campus are in the area. And so we're doing our fall part of our civic engagement event online because we weren't sure what the COVID restrictions will be. But the spring part, we were planning to have on campus, we hope, not knowing, of course, what the conditions are. Do we have a time frame for when we know what any restrictions or codes will be for the spring semester to help us plan not only our courses,
So we'll
but these
probably
kind of
make
programs?
that call, I would say, towards the end of the semester itself, probably the November timeframe. One of the things that we all realize is change has happened tremendously, within COVID. I mean, just think about where we were in January. When we set a vaccine mandate in February, we didn't even think vaccines would be available to be able to do it. And now we're doing boosters and availability. So the rapid nature of this has just been incredible to be able to go with. So, we want to be able to do something with certainty. The meeting that we were in yesterday, we actually had a debriefing by Wilbur Chen, who is we're very fortunate that UNB has a Center for Vaccine Development, and it's internationally known in terms of being able to do that. And it looks like that you've probably heard of the Mu virus, which was the next variant that was expected. That seems not to be taking hold because of the vaccine, but everybody's kind of going like this because when the cold weather comes, what is that going to do? So we're being cautious. I've also been asked about the masks, like what's the off ramp with the masks? And again, my answer to that is we're socialized to it. Okay, I mean, people have kind of gotten used to the fact that we're wearing masks. And if we were to take them off and then for some reason had to put them back on again, with the COVID that we have, and actually the students were talking about it yesterday, the level of uncertainty and the stress level that everybody's had in dealing with that just to be consistent for a while so that we can just get used to one way to behave and conduct is something that just makes everybody feel a bit relieved. Okay, so, I've told people that we'll consider it when it's appropriate, but that, we're not going to pioneer. And there's no sense of urgency to do that, that it's kind of nice to know where we are and that it's working. So stay tuned for that because we know we want to be able to do that. Study abroad is in that aspect too. I mean, there's a lot of pieces to the student experience and to the faculty experience that we need to be able to take a look at in the spring semester. That help?
That definitely helps me communicate with the community partner.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, so I'm so excited about what's going on at the Armory and the BTU and all of that. And I'm teaching a class this semester called Healthcare Disparity and Historical Perspective. And I'm partnering with somebody at HRSA and somebody at the Bloomberg School. And everybody's been very supportive of this effort, Chris too, and there is a real hurdle, and that is that these people can't get access to our Blackboard, to any of our, if you don't have a Towson email account, you can't get into Towson. Like you can't benefit from the library, you can't. So what are we doing to make it easier for our community partners to be able to partner with us? I mean, so I think the building is great, but there's something so small as email. And I've talked to, our internal tech people, and they're like, no, this is a you can't give a Towson email account to somebody who's not at Towson.
So I'll take that back to find out. That sounds like a reasonable thing to find out. And it's the first I've ever heard the complaint. It sounds like a reasonable expectation that we might want to figure out a way to do where we could create temporary passwords or something like that.
Yeah.
I know that and I can share that one of the large concerns that, and it's a matter of being not restrictive, but then also having security on both sides because of the fact that EDU sites tend to be, I can't tell you, we have millions of efforts to breach every week, not every year, every week. This past weekend, we received notification there was a very, very large ransomware attack that hit UMGC, and we had to put some protocols in place with firewalls to be able to do that. You might have seen some issues with Wi-Fi over the last 2 weeks on campus that were adjusting. Part of that was the fact that we put in secondary firewalls to be able to do it. So it's an unfortunate reality that cybersecurity right now is something that we really have to be attentive to, particularly in the fact that we have so many people that can access in. Healthcare is exactly the same way and many others to do it, but I'll carry it back to
Thank
see
you.
if there's a way that we could be able to have, our cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
It's nice to do, and versus or, so
Right.
we'll see if we can do that.
We
Thanks.
have a question from the chat.
We have a question from Zoom, and the idea is that we're excited about the buildings. The concern is never a meeting without parking. The concern is there a plan to increase parking?
So that is a great question,
I
okay?
hope that person heard that.
Yeah, that is a great question, wherever you are, it's a great question. And I want you to keep asking that question of me all the time. So, we're not just looking at parking, we're gonna look at parking and transportation. We did a parking study, and I have to share with you the fact that, and I'll be honest, we realized that the scope needs to be much larger than parking, and I'm not trying to kick a can down the road, but the fact of the matter is that we have a science complex right now, which had all the people that used to park in Towson Garage are now parking in Glen. And when college of health professions open up in 3 years, where do you think those people are gonna park where they used to park? And where's the traffic gonna turn from in terms of Towson Boulevard versus coming in from other access points? Plus, you're gonna have Whole Foods open up and all the apartments that are up in Towson. So we are partnering with the county to be able to take a look at a transportation and a parking means, because if we fix parking but don't fix where people are coming from, it really doesn't help to be able to do that. I'll be able, right now, we're in the bid phase to be able to do it. I want to be urgent about it, because I think there needs to be an urgency about it, particularly with the movement of the campus that way. And it could be things like we might make Glen Drive one way, because it's one way halfway, but not the whole way. We might take a look at access points coming through. So whoever asked it is spot on, okay? They were whispering in the president's ear a few days ago, I think, to be able to do it. But yeah, it is, I have to tell you, it's risen to a very high priority in terms of our list of things to be able to look at. Great.
We have time for one more question. Okay. Sure.
I put into the questions for President
Oh,
Schatz.
okay, I
So,
can ask. Yeah,
yes.
but you want me to ask?
No, I'll ask it. The students have been really good, I think, about mask compliance in the classroom. When they're in the hallways of the buildings, there's a lot of masks under noses. Yes, exactly. And is there any way to send them more information about why the mask over the nose is important? A reminder to keep it over their nose.
Yeah, I will make sure that we do that in terms of a reminder. I mean, I also, whenever I see a student or a grown-up, I mean, or anybody, I'll always just kind of go like that myself to remind them to be able to do it, because I think sometimes when people are not in a classroom or walking or coming in, I mean, I can tell you how many times I've come in from outside, like stopped in the hall, stopped as I've entered and said, okay, I gotta put it on. But it's really good to keep the reminder going, and I'll make sure that we do that.
Thanks.
We have one more. Do you have time for
You have
someone?
time for one more?
I have time for one more,
Okay.
and then I have to bolt across campus. So I have to tell you about, I ran a half marathon last Saturday. I've been preparing for it for about 7 months. And I ran 2 hours and 18 minutes. So it's my first, so I'll be 65 November 24th, and I wanted to run 13.1 before 65. Was my goal. And there's one and done is all I can do. So I'm good at running now.
Which is great. But I'm sure you have someplace to be. So this person would like an update in terms of faculty staff diversity. We've done a lot of work towards increasing our student diversity, and this person wants the update on what's being done for faculty.
So we're nowhere near where we want to be in terms of faculty diversity. I don't have to tell you, just with healthcare disparities is very similar. Those that are taught by folks that resemble them or that they can seek out in terms of mentoring or role models just provides for better success. The provost I know we've invested about $16 million, and there'll be more coming in terms of academic affairs. And when I mean more coming, substantially more coming into academic affairs in terms of lines. We've now 50 lines are going to be released into the campus. She's got cluster hiring and opportunity hiring associated with that. We've done training in terms of inclusive advocates, in terms of the search process itself, but there's still far more to be done. It's something that's a priority for us to be able to do. I think coming back to campus, because one of the things is doing things on Zoom is very difficult to be able to manage. But coming back to campus, I think that more work needs to be done in that area, both from a process standpoint as well as a funding standpoint to be able to do it. But again, I was at the Board of Regents retreat yesterday, and myself and my colleagues, Darryl Pines, Freeman Lebowski, Jay Perma, we were all lamenting that. And if you want to take a look in Jake quoted the fact that in 1979, 3.9% of medical school graduates were Black, and now it's 2.2%. It's there's so much more that needs to be done, and it needs to move also into the middle schools and things like that in terms of encouragement. But I think in terms of the faculty lines, we definitely have to do that. Postdocs are another thing that we need to be able to support, and the policy members looking at those as well. So we're nowhere near we want to be. And I always say money, what's the question? So we need to be able to make that investment. I know it's a high priority for the programs.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.
All right, I want to also tell you that we have just as many people on Zoom, so about 66 people.
Excellent. Hi, everybody.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to meet with us today, answer our questions, update us on what's going on at the university.
No, thank you, Dee. Thank you for your leadership, and thank all of you for everything you do. This is a gift to me. I can get out of the building and I can get to see some faculty, to be able to spend time with you. And again, thank you for everything you're doing to support our students and each other. I'm very, very grateful, and enjoy homecoming as well in the beautiful weather. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. So, I'm gonna-
All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and I hope you stay for the rest of it. I know the main draw has left already. I want to comment on a few things that the president said. Parking. So when I came last year, of course, I didn't understand that there was a parking problem, and the deans were invited to a meeting to talk about parking and strategize and all that. And I sat there again wondering, like, why am I here? I have more important things to do. And of course, now I know why parking is such an important issue. So I'm glad that the universities at least is trying to be proactive on that. The Armory, I don't know how many of you have been to the Armory. I actually went to a couple of events there recently. I went last Friday night for a startup event. It was a large crowd of people, and I don't know if anyone else has been to one of those. Maybe it was the first one we've had, but it was an opportunity for 7 groups, they were teams of people who had put together ideas for new businesses, right? And they had worked with Patrick McQuown, who is I think the executive director of entrepreneurship at the university. They'd worked with him practicing their pitches and so forth. One team was exclusively 2 students from Towson. The others were out of college already. It was really well put together, really well done. And after their presentations, there was an opportunity. I didn't stay, I have to say, because I'm not one of those, but there was an opportunity for investors to talk individually with the different teams and consider investing. And I haven't been in touch with Patrick since then, but I'm hoping some of those teams received investment. So that's a really great space. I don't know what it looked like beforehand. Apparently it was in terrible shape with holes in the roof and so forth. And the president's vision for it was, of course, to reconfigure it, renovate it, and create a lot of open space, not just when you walk in, because it's a very large open space, but also upstairs. So there are group spaces, collaborative spaces, and so forth. So if you haven't had a chance to go over, if there's an event and you want to also see the Armory, I recommend taking a walk over there. It's about a 10-minute walk from here. It's really nice. Faculty, staff diversity. So you probably remember we have 6 searches going on right now. And what I've required in each of the searches is that candidates have to submit a diversity statement, okay? talking, not just saying, yeah, I support diversity and inclusion, but they're going to have to say something more substantive than that. Now, as you know, when we run these searches, we have no idea, generally speaking, how diverse the pool is. We have some ways of maybe identifying that. Candidates can self-identify, but they don't always do that. The statements can give us a little more insight on what their interests are, what their passions might be, maybe what their experience is. And certainly once we get down to seeing them, we may think we understand who's diverse and who's not, but some of the conversation at the Diversity and Inclusion Committee in the college is about this. I mean, we really can't just trust what our eyes suggest to us, right? So we have to be much more careful about that. We have to be more proactive. And over time, we have to improve that. I mean, it's absolutely important and essential for us to provide our students with people who are like them. I don't want to say look like them only, but who are like them. And as you know, we're over 50% now students who are non-white, right? Non-white students, or at least identified that way. They deserve that. It is a matter of pipeline. That, I believe, is what one of the things that the president was suggesting. Pipeline is really important. The pipeline starts maybe in middle school, but it continues here. And so when you see students who you think would be able to contribute to our profession or other professions, encourage them, especially if they're people who you think aren't represented. They're not represented in different professions. In academia, that's absolutely essential. And I'll just end with an anecdote from my field. So I'm a Russianist, you know that. And for decades, I went to the conferences, of course, spent a lot of time in Russia. And in Russia, the stereotyping of people who don't look European is very strong, and it's often negative. And not always, just often. And so I never understood how my field could diversify. And I also wondered, would that be a disadvantage to encourage people who look very different, dark-skinned people, to enter Slavic studies when in fact they probably wouldn't receive the same kind of respect, treatment, and probably doors would be closed to them. Turns out the association, I'm trying to remember the name, it's American Association of Slavonic and Slavic, Eurasian, East European Studies. They have been investing in diversifying the field. Now that diversity is going to benefit students here, colleagues here, but they're also putting that, forth an effort to change some minds abroad, where those students will have to go do their dissertation research in archives, in libraries, and so forth. Because if we don't do that piece, if they don't do that piece, we're setting those students up for failure, and they're making inroads. So I can say that, as recently as last year when I attended the conference, I don't go every year, but I did last year, when I looked at the panels, and I attend many panels, and by Zoom, I was popping in and out a lot more than I could in person. I was really stunned at how much, at least visual diversity there was, okay? There were no longer mostly people who looked like me, or maybe, Central Asian people, because they're acceptable also in Russia. That's really progress. We can make those changes. It takes a long time, and we have to invest not just money, but our own time too. We have to help change other people's minds. So in that case, they have to really work on their contacts at universities in Russia and also archives and libraries to say, these students who are coming up through the pipeline are worth your attention, okay? So that's all I wanna say about the president's comments. Unless you want to ask me something later, and that's fine. So I'll move on to my remarks. And yesterday yesterday was the day that the university gave out alumni honors awards. So this year we honored in the college a 1993 political science major. His name is Skip Pritchard, and Skip has had a very successful career. He climbed the ladder, has led different companies that have to do, especially with digital technology services, and is now the president and CEO of OCLC, which you probably know from the library. It's a major international library. It's a not-for-profit, but I'll say service, okay? And so yesterday he had lunch with 7 of our CLA students. Some of them are A-listers. So if you walked by the reading room between 12 and 2, you might have seen this big table, and that's what was going on. Skip has done many things. He's also written a book for people younger, like our college-age students, about success. And so I gave the students each a book, asked them to read or read as much of it as they had time for, just so they could prepare for the lunch. I thought it was really good that they have the experience of having that kind of interaction. And so they came and they were prepared. And Karen was there, Teresa was there. I don't know, I think that's it in this room. They were impressive. They were really amazing. I was ready to help facilitate the conversation. I didn't have to do anything. They were great. So I just wanted you to know about that. One of the best things I think he said, and I told it to the president just before this, he said, at TU, you get a worldview and a life philosophy. I love that. You get a worldview and a life philosophy. So it was a really exciting day. And then in the evening, there was a banquet. So I got to see who the other award winners were. And it's all a very impressive group of people. And each one of them owed a lot to TU. Some of them, one of the winners from another college had, I believe she said, 4 siblings who also got their degree here. And she had 2 children, and I think she said 2 nephews. So it's really a family tradition for them. And she said TU is really central to who they are as a family. I want to remind everyone that you know the events that happened a couple of Mondays ago at nighttime. The emergency text system does exist and it functions, and you have to sign up. And so if you didn't get a message, and many people didn't get a message, or even if you did, you want to check the link that I'll send around in the dots this weekend to see, are you registered? And if you aren't, make sure you re-register. I don't know the details of like how often you have to do that. The provost thinks it's every year at the moment. That's going to change in the near future, but it's important to sign up for that. And we need the students to do this. So if you could tell that to your students in your class or however you communicate with them, that's really important, because 7,000 people got that message. We have a lot more people on campus than that. It meant a lot of folks didn't get it. So I'll put that out on dots. And then I want to just say a couple of words about an email that some of you received, maybe all of you received, I don't know, this week about CLA PTRM policies. The chair, the dean, the provost did not ignore the complaints about the PTRM process. Departmental and college level policies were in fact followed. The policies themselves are in need of fixing, and I recognize that. Before Monday, when I met with the College Council, I created a small working group subcommittee of the College Council to do a variety of things, but one of them was to look at these discrepancies, getting us ready for next year when we're going to have to, do a whole sweep of all of our policies for PTRM in the college. So that work, I believe I asked for it to come, be concluded by January to give enough time to look, and we'll start the, fixing process at that point. And next year we'll do a more comprehensive review, and we can fix more discrepancies. As for membership on CLA committees, everyone's department determines that on their own. And as far as I'm concerned, everything is going the way it should go. But again, that's part of our review of something else, that's the Constitution and bylaws. So as we do that next year, I will also be paying attention to that. I want to say a few words about the transition to an R2 university, just more or less updates, because I think you should know this. The deans have been charged by the provost to come up with a plan, not a comprehensive, like we don't have to plan everything, but to come up with a plan with certain priorities she gave us by the middle of November. Now it's a draft plan, and she will then, of course, work with us. And then I believe she has to give this plan to the president before the end of the calendar year. The 2 biggest pieces that the deans are talking about right now, and we're meeting regularly, they're related. And one is, you've heard about this from me before. One is creating an equitable course load, and then creating one research doctoral program. The equitable course load is going to be a change for everyone at the university, not just our college. It's partly cultural shift. It's going to require some adjustment, but what we anticipate happening once we go through this process, and it'll be highly individualized at the departmental level, although the dean's office will be involved as well, especially, reviewing the recommendations, is that many people will continue to work as they have on the 3-4 load, okay, with the same expectations. Some people will move to a 3-3 load with their expectations focusing on much more scholarship and grant writing and then grant acquisition, okay? That'll require us to look at our sort of how we have operated differently than in the past, and people in each department will have different loads. That will combine with a reassessment during comprehensive review year. So if someone decides that their focus should be more on scholarship and grant making for 5 years, and then after that, they want to go back to teaching more, that's fine. No one's going to be asked to work more, no one's going to be asked to work less, just differently. As we hire new faculty, the focus will be on that 3-3 model with people producing more scholarship and grants, okay? And that's also in all of the job descriptions or job ads that went on this year. And in that way, the university anticipates, or the deans anticipate, that we'll be able to gradually transition to this new model. Whatever you are hired in as, you should expect that to be the starting point. If that's what you want to stick with. I know the first, second, and third year faculty, well, it was actually second and third year faculty, when I met with them last month, were concerned that that sort of their expectations for tenure change, they didn't change. They're the same. So that may not always be clear when you hear the provost talking about it, but she's not changing the expectations, all right, at all. We're keeping everything the same. Unless you want to change, and we're hoping enough people will want to change. All right, let's see what, oh yeah. Want to just say a few words about actually this, and how do we actually go about getting more grants in? Well, one way to do that is through partnerships across the departments. I've been talking about this with the chairs. I've asked the chairs to identify at least one partnership between someone in their department and another department, and a little bit more than that with some of the chairs, okay? We can, if we look around the college, we can find quite a few people who are working in similar areas. They're not the exact same areas, but they're parallel enough that they might fit under a theme for which we can apply for some grant money. So that's what I'm looking for, and I think that's going to help a lot. When we say grant writing, we're really looking for a variety of grants, but on the one hand, grant money that will help the university through what we call indirect costs recovery, but not limited to that alone. Projects typically involve that, and that's beneficial to the college because a lot of the money comes back to us. There's a formula. Some comes back to the department, some come back to the person, like the PI on the project, some comes back to the dean's office. And then what I do with that money, because we do get it now, we have grants like that, is I use it to support future grant writing, future scholarship, and so forth. I've supported everything from, as you know, if you publish books nowadays, often your copy editing isn't done by the publisher, which I think is horrible. I think I survived copy editors that the publisher provided. And, copy editors don't make bad writing good. What they do is they find inconsistencies, they find typos, they find repetition, that kind of thing. They don't make you into a good writer. So I've supported that. I've supported training for people. I've supported special attendance at maybe conferences or professional development. So there's all kinds of things that we can do. The chairs met a couple of weeks ago with the universities, what I call roughly, it's not their official titles, they're directors of foundations and corporations. That's Janine Callahan and Melanie Kelleher. And I think it was a really enlightening meeting. I think the chairs were inspired. They may, they'll have to say whether or not they were. And we were excited when we left that meeting. they told us about something that I've written about in the dots, and also, I think in the dots, maybe just the chairs, but it's been in TU today, and it's called Wellspring. Wellspring is not a link you can go to online. I have been asking for that, and it'll come. But it's an opportunity for all of us, or anyone who wants to periodically have an opportunity to exchange ideas about what you're working on or what you might want to work on in terms of your research. So, you will, if you go to a Wellspring event, and there's one coming up, I believe, in a week or two, you'll talk with people also from BTU, OSPR, Facet, Office of Civic Engagement and Social Responsibility, SET, and so forth. So I don't know if anyone has been to that. I would strongly encourage you, if you're interested in finding out who's doing what. We don't, as a university, have a database of everyone's research. We don't have that in the college. We're working on it. The university is working on it. I'm trying to work on it to, if we had that kind of database, you could easily then just go in and search, right? We don't have that yet. But in the meantime, this is an opportunity for you to take advantage of. Facet. Facet has 2 mentoring fellows this year from other colleges, as it turns out. And they met with Karen and me a couple of weeks ago. What they're doing is trying to find out from the deans and then from all of you, what kind of mentoring goes on, what has worked, what would you like to see? So we spent an hour with them. I think we could have gone longer if we had more time. And it was a very, lively conversation. We learned a lot, they learned a lot. And they're doing this with every college. If you follow TU today, there's an opportunity for you to take a survey. And it has 2 questions. I think one is like a positive mentoring experience and a negative, something like that. It's very short. So if you have an opportunity and an interest, it would be great if you completed that survey. And all of this information is really helpful. This year, they're gathering information, and I believe starting to come up with some preliminary proposals of how we can have a more uniform mentoring at the university. It does not mean you can't have mentoring in your department or in the college. Of course you can. And they're at all different levels. Chairs can mentor, deans can mentor, faculty can mentor. You can go across departments. That's fine. So just wanted to mention that and encourage you to complete that survey. Dean's Fellows. So I've been talking about this for a while. We now have 4 Dean's Fellows identified, with the 5th one, I hope, coming up soon. You've heard about Bob Brook and Study Abroad. You've heard about Elena and assessment. We also have Jeff Monroe, who's going to join as a Dean's Fellow for advising. So we're very happy about that. I can't tell you who the next one is, but we have an acceptance from someone to be the Diversity and Inclusion Dean's Fellow. I'm really thrilled about all 4 of these. And then I'm looking for one more to start in January on something I call campus enrichment. It's much broader than just, initially I'd conceived of it as like, what lessons did we learn while we were away and as we come back? But now it's a little bit broader than that. And but it will include that. So hopefully I'll have that filled, and we'll have at least a full first class of Dean's Fellows. Brown bags. So I host, and I just started hosting a monthly brown bag. And so this month, it's next Wednesday, and I think it's 12:30, 1:30, but there's an announcement out about that. And I will be talking about this transition to an R2 university. It's not a formal talk. I'll answer questions. We can have a conversation. I really would like to hear from people. So if you can come even for a half hour, it's really a great experience. We will have Zoom available, and we'll have some kind of camera because it's going to be in the faculty staff lounge. So we'll have a camera that will help us with that. So you'll be able to see us. We tried a Zoom a couple of weeks ago with my iPad. It wasn't acceptable. It was, making everyone who came in a little bit, I think, dizzy by keep turning the iPad around to catch who was talking. So we won't do it that way. Student collaborative space on the 3rd floor. Has anyone seen it? It's being built out. No one has seen it. You've got to go. So just go down the stairs, right? Right behind the elevator. Right behind the elevator. It won't be done, for a little while, but you'll see the progress being made, and it's really exciting. So that's something to look forward to as well. I want to say a few things about good news, because I think it's always important to acknowledge some of the good things, because there are many, many good things going on in the college. You know that the BTU awards are given out every year, and this year's winners include 2 CLA faculty members, Zosha Stuckey and Carrie Grant. I don't know, are either here? I'm trying to look through masks. Maybe they're here by Zoom. But really, we should congratulate both of them. And there's more information on the website, and there is an event to celebrate them on November 7th. I went to it last year by Zoom, but this year I believe it's in person. So please attend and support. That's really great news for us. Last Friday, some of you may have attended the Student Summer Research presentations. And if you did, you know just how inspiring it was. So I said it was like having a nice, it was like a nice piece of cake at the end of a long week. It was just delight, pure delight. We had 2 students talk about the research that they had conducted, under the guidance of 2 of our faculty members, and I'll tell you who these are in a second. And they stood up at the podium, they had their PowerPoint presentations, they delivered really well and answered questions that they didn't expect, right? Really well. That's fantastic preparation. It's not just about helping them and supporting them to go into the field and do whatever work they wanted to do, but it really helps them to prepare for life after graduation, whatever they do. So that was really great work. The first student is Daniel Ashby, who's a double major in history and Asian studies. And Daniel's topic or title is Visualizing Textual Trends of Abuse on Twitter by the Japanese far right. And Daniel's faculty mentor was Eric Ropers in the Department of History. And the second student to present was Samuel Smith, a double major in psychology and women's and gender studies. And the title of Samuel's project was Experiences of Trans Intimate Partner Violence Survivors in the Context of Therapy. And Samuel's faculty advisor was Paz Galupo from psychology. So they did a really fantastic job. And thank you for everyone who attended that. All right, we have about 10 minutes for questions. So I'll open it up.
So I have one virtual, if I can start.
Yeah.
This question came in when we were talking about the follow-up to the president, and the question is, what will we be doing to educate faculty regarding diversity statements? And should the college also provide a diversity statement?
Okay, so I should say the diversity statement that I required is not the only thing required, right? So each search should have received, it didn't happen this year the way I'm going to describe it, but they should receive an inclusion advocate. And Shauna Payne-Gold had overseen that last year, and in her absence, I'm not sure who's overseeing that, but not enough inclusion advocates were trained. So not every search at the university, there are 50 searches right now going on. Not every search gets an advocate. I think in our college, 4 of our 6 received that. And the deans were asked to prioritize. And what I did was I recommended that anyone who who ran a search last year, we had 2, and who had received an inclusion advocate. I didn't know if they needed one as much as the other ones who had not done the search, but I didn't make the decision who got those. Do we need a diversity statement? That's something I can ask, consult with the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. One thing we want to be careful of, not to be redundant, but we also want to, if we're going to have a statement, we want to think about what is distinctive to CLA in that statement. So that's a good question. I'll raise it at the next Diversity and Inclusion Committee meeting. Did I get everything there? Okay. And you'll give me that question later so I can. Thanks. Okay, remember. Thanks. Any other questions here or outside? I want to say here or abroad, but in any case, here or outside.
Yeah.
Yes, Carol.
In the workload model, course load model, what will happen to advising will we still have credit for 50 or more advisees as a course equivalent?
So the goal is no. The goal is that we have advising much more spread out. So there are some departments where only a few people advise. And so the goal is that that's part of what faculty do to teach. Okay, the provost very strongly has stated that, and I support that too. I think too often our college does very well in that sense. There are some pockets we have to address. At least one of the other colleges does not. People in those colleges say, I can't advise, I don't know how to, I don't know this kind of thing, I'm not a career. Those to me are excuses. Everyone can advise, okay? If we have someone who's unable to advise because we think they're too whatever, unpeople friendly, there's a problem there. They're going to be people friendly in the classroom. So then I would want to know, what are we doing about what they're doing in the classroom? Everyone can advise. We all advise differently. Everyone should see a student. I don't care if they're freshmen or not, even if they're not there for formal advising. Say they come to your office for questions about your class. Everyone should be asking, so what are you thinking about after graduation? I mean, I did this all the time when I was in the classroom and when I was chair. We want to get students thinking about this soon, early, and keep asking it. When you start formally advising, it shouldn't just be classes. I think students, I don't know, but what I've heard from other deans, often students come with a pretty good idea of what classes, and then they need some guidance. But then take that opportunity to talk about other things. And some of them really don't know what they can do with your major. When we go to open house and we talk to students and their parents and about, say, philosophy, religious studies, women's and gender studies, or history, or political science, they're not always sure what careers those lead to. That's something you can do better than anyone else, right? Help them with that. Tell them what kind of sectors might be really important. I always told students, check out government jobs. Some students were more internationally oriented. And I would say, why don't you look at UN? Why don't you look at World Bank? I had students who actually applied and occasionally would get those jobs. Doesn't matter where they're from, where they came from, they can get those jobs. Private sector is great, but so is the public sector. So, and the public sector is very big. It's much more diverse than what students might realize. So, and we actually in our presentations, we point that out. We show where students have gone, and we have a really great slide that shows the multitude of possibilities for students. But they're young, if they're first generation, or if they're from a family who really hasn't been, they've been sort of in these certain spheres of careers or jobs, they may not realize how much they can actually do. Our alumni award winner yesterday is a really good example of that. He did get a Juris Doctor degree, so he's a lawyer too, but he didn't want to keep practicing. So he used his creative skills that he got in this college and from elsewhere to start thinking, what can I do? And then he started to try to do it and figure out ways to do it. He didn't start at the top. He's pretty young. I would say he's about 50 based on his year of graduation, but he figured it out. And he depended on other people to learn from and so forth. So that's what I would say to that. Yes.
Can I follow up on Carol's question
Sure.
or concern about advising? In that, so I've been part of the first year advising program for, I don't know, 15, 16 years or something like that. Our academic advising center does a really, really great job of training faculty to be advisors through that program. And I strongly encourage anybody to participate in that program because they really teach you how to advise. And advising, I agree with you that students come in with different interests. Sometimes they know their classes, but they don't know a career path. But we also get the reverse. They know a career path, but don't know how to get there. And I think, advising within our majors is one thing, but doing the larger advising that includes the core, includes minors, includes a whole, variety of things. I think, honestly, faculty need the opportunity for training for that. There are things in the core that change every year. We don't have any means of being updated on those changes. I do because I stay in the FYE program. But I think there needs to be some opportunity to train us because that's not part of our grad school training for sure. And it is kind of complicated. And there are a lot of ins and outs that we don't otherwise get. And I would never have learned if I hadn't gone through, again, what is a really excellent program put on by academic advising.
That's great. I agree with everything. Training, it's so It's appreciated at this university, but we don't have enough training for lots of things, advising included. Thank you. I wrote it down, by the way.
And Jeff and I just had some nonverbal communication about it as well, so that's great.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Um,
Maybe the last question, because we're right up at 3 o'clock. Anyone?
I've got one here.
All right.
I will take it. So this question is related to the additional research and grant writing in preparation for the R2 and what you need to do to move to the 3-3. And the question here is, will decisions about what is required that counts as additional research and grant writing, will that those types of decisions be available, that information will be available in advance of when we plan the schedule for fall 22, which is in January?
I can't guarantee it, but that certainly would be, is a goal, right? So as I've said, we can start it in fall 22, but then 23 is when we have to really, by then for certain. It's something we have to create as a college and in the departments, okay? It's not just what the deans are working on, though I think we have to wait for the deans to finish their work before we move too far down that road. I'll throw something else out that I have raised at meetings with the deans and others, and that is we have to, and it's come up in like in college council, but not only. We have to look at the PTRM documents, not the way I talked about earlier, but we have to think about how will the PTRM document reflect these changes, right? It's not set up that way. And even at the university level, but certainly at the college and the department level. So we have a lot of work to do. I don't want to say we're going to have to slow things down, but I think we have to look at it as a multi-year process that we can start next fall in terms of the course adjustments and certainly with the new faculty. And we have one new faculty this year, so you could say we've started already. But if you notice the job ads, and I don't know, I haven't checked lately, I don't know if any of ours are up yet, but we won't be putting down course load, okay? And we've been told not to for that reason alone. Hopefully, all of the new hires will come in at a 3-3, 3-2 for the first year, I understand, but 3-3 as their base load going forward. All right, we're done. We're out of time. Feel free to email me if you have any questions or want to talk to me. I'm happy to. Thanks so much for coming today.